Can you afford the 2026 Genesis GV70 SUV? Well, the new SUV, it has been unveiled with its new pricing, and of course, most trim levels have gone up in price compared to 2025, except for one of the twin-turbo V6 models, which kind of went down in price. But regardless, for the most part, especially the 4-cylinder models, the price has certainly gone up. And I'm using some various calculators to find out the finance payment and the lease payment for the 2026 GV70. And according to a Kelley Blue Book article, they suggest that your total monthly car payment, including the car payment itself, the insurance, and the fuel, it should not exceed between 10 to 20% of your net monthly take-home pay. Okay, with that established, I also obviously don't recommend paying full MSRP for a vehicle, so the first thing I suggest most people to do is to find the invoice price at least for whatever car that they are interested in. Usually I like to use JD Power to find that information, but with a quick Google search, I noticed that JD Power had not updated the invoice price for the 2026 GV70, so I'm using a website called iSeeCars.com. Their numbers seem to be fairly accurate on average. The delta between MSRP to invoice on a lot of these Genesis vehicles, it's about 4.5%. So 4.5% off the MSRP will essentially give you invoice price on average. In fact, I even rounded down the discount, so we're paying slightly above invoice. So I just wanted to set all the ground rules straight, and I have compiled all of the numbers here. I built a base model $49,740 MSRP GV70 with about $2,300 off the MSRP to get us to quote-unquote invoice price. The lease payment with all of the taxes and fees included with no money down, it's going to be $762.69 per month. And I'm using AutoCompanion's free leasing calculator to obtain these lease figures. Of course, lease payments, interest rates, incentives, etc. All of that changes every month, and AutoCompanion's calculator also updates every month. Now, to run the finance numbers, I'm using calculator.net, and to find the interest rate, well, the promotional interest rate for people with perfect credit as of right now, May of 2025, it is 5.99% for 60 months on a 2026 GV70. So that same base model, your monthly payment, it's going to be $1,039.05. I'm also using Pennsylvania as the example state with a 9% sales tax, and the Google AI, it just spat out some random numbers for monthly insurance and monthly fuel costs. We're just going to roll with that. The monthly insurance figure that I got for a GV70, it's about $182 per month. The monthly fuel cost about $260 per month. That might be a little high, especially for people who might be leasing, or for people who are obviously not living in California and go to Costco to get their fuel. Regardless, I just kept that $260 a month fuel cost because some states have like this perpetual annual property tax that they have to pay. Other states might have a higher insurance cost. So regardless, I just kept that high monthly fuel cost to kind of even things out, if that makes sense. So on that base model, your total monthly lease cost, it's going to be $1,204.69. Total finance cost, $1,481.05. That means the minimum income that you need to be making for this to be 20% of your world and to afford a base model 2026 GV70 with a subpar discount, you got to be making at least $6,023.45 per month as your net monthly take-home income. But for this to be 10% of your world, you should be making at least $12,046.90 per month to afford the lease payment on this base model GV70. Now, to afford the finance on this base model GV70, you got to be making $7,405.25 per month, all the way up to $14,810 per month. Yeah, these are your figures for the base model to be between 10 to 20% of your net monthly income for both leasing and financing. I also ran the numbers on the 2.5T Advanced and the 3.5T Prestige, which is the top of the line model. And of course, I'm gonna have the figures on the screen for you to check out. I mean, that top of the line model, the lease and the finance become significantly higher because we have really jumped up in the MSRP. So the minimum income that you need to afford the twin turbo V6 Prestige model of the GV70, it's gonna be $7,805.25 per month for it to be 20% of your income. To be 10% of your income, you have to be making $15,610 per month, and that's for the lease. For the finance, it jumps up significantly. You got to be making at least $9,607 per month to finance the top of the line GV70, and to comfortably afford it, for the finance payment to be 10% of your net monthly income, you got to be bringing in $19,215 per month. And sure, that might be possible with dual incomes, but then you need 2 cars. So you're gonna have to run these numbers again with whatever the second vehicle is that you decide to purchase. A couple of things to take away here. Well, first of all, the 2026 GV70, that is a all new model year. Heck, we're still in 2025, right? So obviously the 2026 models, they have no incentives, like none at all, for either the lease or for the finance, or even if you're paying cash, there is no retail bonus cash available to you as a discount. So discounts are horrible. The promotional finance rate is horrible. All of this contributes to higher payments, making the all-new GV70 not a great value in the segment for right now. Number 2, who's really buying these vehicles? Well, it's going to be wealthier individuals, of course. The average income of a new car buyer in the United States, it's about $115,000 per year. And there's 22 million millionaires in the United States. That's really your buying pool for new cars. Of course, everyone likes to mention in the comment section that it's not just millionaires, it's obviously regular people that are overextending themselves to buy these disposable new cars. Of course, I totally understand that. That happens all day long. But here's the thing, whenever normal people try to overextend themselves like that, usually the vehicle just gets repossessed and the average person is not really in a situation to play the new car game for quite some time. So they're back to the used car segment again, or finding some type of a used cash car even. But no doubt, there's always people overextending themselves who never do the calculations that I just showed you in this video. But to soften the blow, okay, obviously a 2025 GV70 is going to be a superior deal. In fact, for the numbers I showed you on a base model 2026 GV70, you can get the top of the line advanced 4-cylinder 2025 GV70 for about the same price as the 2026 base model, both in terms of the lease payment and also the finance payment, because you get a more incentivized 2.99% interest rate for 60 months on the finance. And regarding the lease, you get $2,750 in lease cash, and there's also a conquest incentive or even a loyalty incentive that you can qualify for, bringing the lease payment down even further. And that's why I recommend using the AutoCompanion lease calculator, so you can see these incentives. So it doesn't matter if you are paying cash or if you are financing. If you want to see all the incentives, you have to use AutoCompanion's lease calculator. Not to mention, invoice price is a garbage discount. You should be getting these luxury vehicles under invoice, honestly. Now with the Genesis brand, that is easier said than done, because for whatever reason, Genesis dealerships, they are such a pain to deal with. They don't even care if they don't sell the vehicle. They almost always refuse to sell you a car at a decent discount. I have no idea why that is, but it's imperative, if you are dealing with these dealerships, to completely bypass the salespeople and to find the general manager's email of the dealership that you're trying to work with. Honestly, on a 2025 GV70, I would at least try to get 8% off the MSRP, if not closer to 10% off the MSRP. That's going to be well below invoice. It's probably easier to get such discounts on BMW, Audi, and Mercedes than it is on Genesis. Why do I say that? Well, that's because AutoCompanion is not just responsible for this calculator, he's also one of the largest car brokers in the United States. And he has many partner dealerships, both in Washington, D.C. and in California. And on something like a 2025 newly redesigned BMW X3, he's got 11.5% off the MSRP, well below invoice, and the lease payment on that, it's about $775 per month. Compare that with the 2026 GV70s, you're getting a well-equipped X3 on a lease for about the same price as a base model 2026 GV70 or a well-equipped 2025 GV70. Most people would rather rock the German vehicle, and that's why I just happened to bring up the BMW. Plus, that's an amazing discount on a desirable product like the X3. But keep in mind, to access AutoCompanion's deals and discounts, you do have to pay a broker fee. He did say that if you go on his website and you fill out an inquiry form and you mention my channel, Meyn Motor Group, he did say that he'll take some money off of his broker fee. But something else to consider is if you're not local to DC or California, you will have to have the vehicle shipped to your location. And that's obviously something else that you have to pay extra for. But even if you had to pay the broker fee and the shipping, you're still getting about $4,300 off the MSRP of a new X3. Still puts you in a better position than negotiating on your own on a new Genesis, and still one of the best discounts on a new BMW in the country. And that's why I share with you resources like this. If you want to skip the hassle of negotiating on your own, you can use services like AutoCompanion to save you time and money, along with junk fees as well. Average dealership, they love to just throw in a bunch of junk fees like tin fees, nitrogen fees, etc. You don't have to deal with any of those shenanigans when dealing with AutoCompanion's partner dealerships. Plus, if you can pick up the vehicle on your own, you can of course save on that shipping cost. Regardless though, these are the figures that you can expect to pay on a new GV70 as of May 2025. Comment below, let me know your thoughts, and if you found value with this content, make sure to like and subscribe. Thank you again for watching, take care, and goodbye.